Is God with you? Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
Is He involved in your life? Does He go with you? Last week we discussed that it is one thing to say that God is real. It is another thing entirely to act on that belief. Faith drives us to action. But even more than just believing in God, there's an additional belief. Does God actually go with me? There's a whole group of people, maybe you've heard the term deist before, of people who believe that God is real, that He really did create the world, and then He just kind of skipped town. Does God go with you? Is God with you? I would hope that we know that God is real. I would hope that we know that God is here, but that He goes with me. That's something that I want us to grasp, that we can teach our kids, that we can teach our community. In just 3 weeks, our church will launch this year's VBS. VBS is a massive undertaking, but we do it because our children, the children of this community and their families, need to know the life-changing reality of Jesus Christ. They need to know that there are people and a God who loves them, and we need volunteers, but we also need prayer warriors who will pray for our church, pray for our volunteers, pray for our kids, and pray for the kids that need to come and hear the truth. And so last week and the next couple of weeks, we are going through the VBS story so that we as a church will all be on the same page, moving in the same direction, so that we can pray, teach, serve, and reach together as we do this. One of Satan's biggest lies, and I wish I could say, I wish that you'd never experienced this, but one of Satan's biggest lies that I'm sure that many of you have heard in those quiet moments, that you are the only one who's ever had to deal with X. You're the only one who's ever been tempted by Y. You're the only one who's ever been hurt by blank. I'm the only one who's ever had to make this choice. I'm the first one in history to do this. And when you're calm, it seems ridiculous. But when you're in the middle of it, you feel so alone. God feels absent. Is God absent? And again, when we are calm, no. But do we feel it? See, Satan is a good liar. When we are calm, it sounds silly, but he is a really good liar. Everyone in this room has uttered either privately or publicly something along the lines of, I feel alone in whatever this is. God being with us is more than saying that He is real. It is saying that He is not only real, He is going with me. He is real to me. He is here. He's not here, He's here. He's here. In Joshua chapter 3, Israel is on the other side of the Jordan River. They've been wandering for what feels to them like an eternity. And they are finally back at the Jordan River, ready to cross into what we call Israel. Last week we talked about the spies that were sent. Joshua sent spies across the river to Jericho to spy out the land. Where's the water supplies? Where are the military buildups? What do we have to do? Where do we need to go? Give us a map. And we talked about that last week. But now we have an enormous amount of people. It's very difficult to guess exactly how many people. It's not easy. But there have been some estimates that place the nation of Israel leaving Egypt at somewhere between 1 and 3 million people. It's an estimate. There's no way to prove it, but it's an estimate. And yes, people did die in the desert, but they still had babies too. So I'm going to say that there's been at least 1 to 3 million people on the other side of the Jordan. That's a lot of people. A lot of people, and their stuff, their animals, didn't exactly have refrigerators carrying around, so they had to bring their food with them. You've got little kids, you've got not as many elderly because of the wandering, but you've got little kids, you've got animals, you've got all your belongings. Well, let's head to the nearest bridge. Yeah, they didn't have those. They had what they called fords, which were places in the river that you could walk across when it was normal. But you see, the Jordan River was at flood stage. That means it was, well, somewhat torrential. I would like you to open your Bibles to Joshua chapter 3. We will be in Joshua chapter 3 and 4 today. God with us as they crossed the Jordan. Joshua chapter 3, verses 1 through, well, the whole chapter. Joshua rose early in the morning, and they set out from Shittim, and they came to the Jordan, he and all the people of Israel, and lodged there before they passed over. At the end of 3 days, the officers went through the camp and commanded the people, as soon as you see the ark of the covenant of the Lord being carried by the Levitical priests, then you shall set out from your place and follow it. There shall be a distance between you and it about 2,000 cubits in length. In other words, just don't follow too close. Do not come near it, in order that you may know the way you should go, for you have not passed this way before. Then Joshua said to the people, consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do wonders among you. And Joshua said to the priests, take up the ark of the covenant and pass on before the people. So they took up the ark of the covenant and went before the people. The Lord said to Joshua, today I will begin to exalt you in the sight of all Israel, that they may know that as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. And as for you, command the priests who bear the ark of the covenant. This is what he's going to tell the priests. When you come to the brink of the waters of the Jordan, you shall stand still in the Jordan. And Joshua said to the people, come here and listen to the words of the Lord your God. And Joshua said, here is how you shall know that the living God is among you, and that he will without fail drive out from before you the Canaanites, the Hivites, the Hittites, the Hivites, the Perizzites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, the Jebusites. It's a lot of ites. Behold, the ark of the covenant of the Lord of all the earth is passing over before you into the Jordan. Now therefore take 12 men from the tribes of Israel, each tribe a man. And when the soles of the feet of the priests bearing the ark of the Lord of all the earth shall rest in the waters of the Jordan shall be cut off from flowing, and the waters coming down from above shall stand in one heap. So when the people set out from their tents to pass over the Jordan with the priests, bearing the ark of the covenant before the people, and as soon as those bearing the ark had come as far as the Jordan, the feet of the priests bearing the ark were dipped into the water, into the brink of the water. Now the Jordan overflows all its banks throughout the time of harvest. In other words, this is at flood stage. And the waters coming down from above stood and rose in a heap very far away at Adam, the city that is beside Zarethan. And those flowing down toward the Sea of Arabah, the salt sea, were completely cut off. And the people passed over opposite Jericho. Now the priests bearing the ark of the covenant of the Lord stood firmly on dry ground in the midst of the Jordan, and all Israel was passing over on dry ground until all the nation finished passing over the Jordan. Now this is one of those great miracles of the Old Testament. I remember learning about this when I was in VBS. I mean, this is just one of those, you got all these people and you divide the waters. I mean, you talk about it, God divided the Red Sea, God divided the Jordan several times actually. But he is a great miracle of the Old Testament. But this was not specifically, at least not stated specifically, to show God's power. Verse 10 says, this is to show you that the living God is among you. Why are we doing this? We can make it across if we try. No, this is to show that the living God is among you. How do you think people got across the Jordan before? It's not like they couldn't have done it. It had taken a lot of time. There would have been a lot of problems, but they could have done it. God did this to show them, I am with you. I am not going to leave you alone. I'm not going to abandon you. When you go do what I have called you to do, I will go with you. God did nothing to show off, even though he certainly could have. He wanted to show the people he was with them. One of the most interesting things to me, actually, in this passage is how many times speaking on behalf of the Lord, of course, mentions that the priests carrying the ark will come up to the water and the river will stop flowing after they're in it. See, to me, it's one of those I carry up, waiting. Oh, good, it's gone. Okay, now I can go. You wait for traffic. Wait for the cars to stop. It's not what happened. They had to, this is an expression, but it's accurate. They kind of had to jump in with both feet. And when they jumped in, God showed up. He did what he promised. He told them exactly what was going to happen. They didn't walk in blind. They knew what was going to happen. God told them, when you do this, I'm going to do this. It's kind of like when you tell your child, if you clean your room, this will happen. If you don't, this will happen. They had to step into the river. And when they did, God showed up. God was with them. He showed up in a big way. And it was not the only time. He had done this many times before, and he will do it many times in the future. But God is showing his people that as they step into this new land, into Israel, they're gonna have problems. But when they go, you are not going alone. I'm not sending you and then hanging out on the back porch, waiting for you to come back. I'm not sending you and saying, have fun. I am going with you. He showed up in a big way. And we can talk. There's a lot of things that can be said about this passage. You've probably heard a dozen or more sermons on this passage. But God showed them that he was with them. When they went where he told them to go, he went with them. But I want to focus more on chapter 4. See, after God did this, he told them, now before they finished, he told them, every man, there's 12 tribes of Israel, I want you to spend one guy from every tribe into the middle of the river. I want you to take a rock from the river, a stone, and I want you to take it out of the river. And where you camp tonight, I want you to set them up in a heap. Now, I love historical markers. I really love historical markers. It's a lot of fun for me. I just thought of there is a spot on 400 as you go toward Joplin, though. There's a sign that says on this site in 18, I don't remember what it said, 1860 something or other, nothing happened. I thought that was funny. But in the ancient world, they would set up a heap of stones. And this heap of stones was a historical marker. But they didn't carve out they didn't have a plaque there. What they did was, the heap of stones was so that other people could say, what are these here for? Hey, do you know why these are here? Hey, do you know why these are here? Why, yes, I do. Let me tell you the story. It was a way to tell stories. I want to read the first 7 verses of chapter 4. Joshua chapter 4, verses 1 through 7. When all the nation had finished passing over the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, take 12 men from the people, from each tribe a man, and command them, saying, take 12 stones from here out of the midst of the Jordan, from the very place where the priest's feet stood firmly, and bring them over with you, and lay them down in the place where you lodge tonight. Then Joshua called the 12 men from the people of Israel, whom he had appointed, a man from each tribe. And Joshua said to them, pass on before the ark of the Lord your God into the midst of the Jordan, and take up each of you a stone upon his shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of the people of Israel. That this shall be a sign among you. When your children ask in time to come, what do these stones mean to you? Then you shall tell them that the waters of the Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord, when it passed over the Jordan. The waters of the Jordan were cut off. So these stones shall be to the people of Israel a memorial forever. When your children ask about these stones, you shall tell them what God did here. When your children ask about these stones, you will tell them, God was with us. When your children ask about these stones, you will tell them that God is with us. Is God with us today? We don't tell these stories well. You know who you are. Come on up. We don't tell these stories well. But we're going to today. We don't tell our children God was with us stories very well. Now, if I've counted correctly, and I need to, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, yes, 11, 12. There we go. We're good. Yes. All right. We don't tell our stories well. You see, God is still with us. God is still doing miraculous things. God is still God. He still goes with us. He didn't abandon us. He didn't say, now, I've given you this great commission. I've given you this thing you're supposed to do, and, just have fun. He didn't do that with Israel. Why would he do that with us? God is with us. So, I went to the quarry and got 12 stones. And I have 12 people here. I don't know what they're going to say. But I've asked them, each of them, to do 60 seconds. We don't want to be here all day. But 60 seconds on God with us. How has God been with you? What is your story of God with me? When you're finished, I want you to place your stone here, stack them if you wish. And when you do that, say, God is with me. And I want us to respond, they'll say, God is with me. I want us to respond, God is with us. And let's hear, God is with us.
God has led me across many Jordans in my lifetime and put my feet on solid ground. God is with me, and I with him.
Well, God has been with me since birth. My mother didn't want me. She told my wife that she hated me until I was 14. But God was with me, and he's been with me all my life. And I've realized that every day of my life as I walk, because he loved me. He loved me so much, he gave up his son for me. Thank you. God is with me. God is with us.
I feel as though I've been blessed by God all my life. I grew up in a Christian home. But one night I was filling up my car after leaving St. Francis from work, and I stopped at the Quick Trip on Broadway. I was pumping my gas, and all of a sudden, 2 guys with guns ran out of the Quick Trip, one right past me, look at my car, and run on down the street. So I was completely blessed that I did not get carjacked or anything else. So God is with me. God is with us.
Six and a half years ago, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. I was told that there's no cure and that it will come back. And I didn't care what the doctors told me. I knew my God heals. 4 years after that, I was told that I needed to do another brain surgery. This would be 3. And I was arguing with God while I was driving home. And I was like, God, you are the healer. Heal me now. And I pulled into my driveway, and there were plants, flowers in my flower garden. And God told me that I am with you and that this is my plan. God is with me.
God's with us.
In 1949, I accepted Jesus as my Savior. He has fed me, and I didn't know where the next meal was coming from. In 1960, when I was coming home from Germany, he sent an angel to help me get from one train to another. In January of 2014, he sent me a cowboy angel in a pickup to help me find my way through the Flint Hills when I was lost on a ranch road. In 2016, I asked the Lord for a companion, and he gave me a husband. God is with me.
My Jordan is 2.5 years ago. I lost my twin babies. I was 5 months pregnant and went to early labor. And I would not be able to stand here and say anything and still have my loving family if God was not there with me through the entire event and even afterwards. God is with me.
God's with us. My name's Kirk. I'm a drug addict and an alcoholic. Thank you. 27 years ago, I left that. I left all my bandmates and all my friends in California just to save my life, to be sober. On February 8th, I heard that my drummer, Joe Quattrini, died homeless on the streets of San Fernando, living in a car with his son of a heroin overdose. His whole family has been plagued. He's got 6 kids, and 4 of them are all addicted to smack. At that time, I decided I was going to start writing about my experiences with the group, and then I set out on a plan to go visit the people that I used to know, and 4 of the kids that I've never met. Pray for me as I go. It's going to be like Luke 10 says, he sends the lambs out into the wolves' den. Some of the kids are living in camps. Some of them are living in subsidied housing. And I don't know where one of them lives yet, but I know that I'll find them because God is with me.
When I was a young man, a neighbor came over to Mom's house, and we were outside the back door. He was telling me he believed in the Bible 100% front to back. I said, "You can't believe in the creation story, can you?" We had a nice long discussion, and I won the argument. Ha! God is with me.
I got out of Wesley SICU in September with a pulmonary embolism, and I didn't feel like there was anything wrong with me. I felt great, so mine's really short. God is with me.
In 1956, I was stationed on a destroyer by the name of USS Hank. We got into a hurricane. It drug us along. We were in it for a week. I lost 9 pounds. I thought I was going to die, and I was afraid I wouldn't. If you've never been there, you're lucky. God saved me. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Him. God is with me.
I was so fortunate to be born into a family that celebrated God's glory, and we learned unconditional love and all the fruits of the Spirit and forgiveness. And then, adolescence and early adulthood with growing responsibilities and stress, and I stepped away and started feeling fear and pain, and I didn't like that feeling. So I continue to learn to develop that personal relationship with divine every day and really learn my superpower, which is God's grace through faith, and I get to use that every day through my work and through my daily life, and God is with me.
Psalms 126:3 says, "The Lord has done great for us. We are filled with joy." I know that God dwells with me when I look in the book of Galatians and I see the fruits of the Spirit and I find the love and the patience and joy. And so when the Psalms tell me that I am filled with joy, if I feel something, I can't pour it around it, I can't put it beside it, I have to put it in it. And I know that I am filled with joy, and I know that God dwells in me because the Spirit lives in me, and that brings me that love and that peace and that joy. And I was excited to share that because when you were asking me, Kevin, I was like, that's the passage. I know exactly, because it's the fruit of the Spirit. That's how I know God, this omnipresent God is with me and with you at the same time because he lives inside of me. But then as I heard all these stories, I'm like, wait, you guys, okay, so you guys know I kill bugs, right? You know I kill bugs. I'm at this house, I'm killing these bugs, and some people's spirits are evil, and they hang it on their walls, and they live in darkness. And I'm in there, and if you've ever worked, you're going through the motion of work, you're just working. And so I think Ephesians 6:16 really was missing in my life at that moment. Above all, take up the shield of faith to protect us from the fiery darts of the wicked one. Well, let me tell you what, inside this house, wickedness was firing darts at me. They were just pelting me, and I don't even realize it till I get out of the house, I'm out at the truck, I'm like, where did that gallon of treatment go? Like, and I need more. Like, I'm not done with this house yet. And I'm very meticulous, I'm very strategic, I compartmentalize this work, and so I'm confused, and I'm like, and I'm not realizing I'm just being beaten down by Satan. I get back in the house, I continue my treatment, and I'm overwhelmed. I'm in the back bedroom. I'm just beaten, man. They're just pelting me. And I make it into the hallway of this. And here's the thing about the house. Let me describe this house to you. You know how a basement's built and then you build up from the basement? No, these people's house was basement down. It was like an earth-bun house, okay? So these people were subterranean. They dwelled under the earth. I'm under the earth in this earth-bun type house. I'm getting pelted by Satan in this house. Because honestly, I was just going through the motion of work. My spiritual fitness was weak on this day. And in the middle of this, coming out of the hallway, I just stop. I just freeze, and I'm just like, Jesus, please cover me. Like, cover me, pour on me, come live inside of me, get me out of this. And if you've ever been in a situation where you can imagine a little boy done wandered off, got himself into trouble, and dad had to come get him out of it, and the humiliation of walking out of there as dad's getting you out of there, I felt that moment inside the house. It was so amazing because I was not ashamed. I was not embarrassed. It was as if evilness had to stop in the presence of God as he came right beside me and we walked out of that house. By the time I got out of the house, I was clear-minded. I was, okay, great, we're good. We're going to mix up another half gallon. We're going to go finish this job and everything's going to be great. And I knew the Lord was with me. I knew that he was the shield that protected me in that. I knew that he was the Father that carried me out of that unfit place. And in all that, 2 Jehovah's Witnesses walked up to share a testimony with the homeowner of that house, and they come up and they said, can we tell you about the greatness of Jesus today? Oh, let me share the greatness of what Jesus just did for me inside that house right now. And as they looked at the front door and they saw the sign, and the sign on the door says, abandon your soul to enter this door. And I knew that when I walked through that door, the Lord is with me.
we don't tell our stories well. But God is with us. We don't set up monuments in our homes, but God is with us. Obviously, this is an illustration, and obviously this won't be here forever. In fact, it has to go away pretty quick because there's a preschool graduation here tomorrow night. But this is what we do, or what we should do. God carries us through. We must tell His story. God is with me. God is with us. Let me finish the chapter, Joshua chapter 4, verses 21 through 24. And he said to the people of Israel, this is the second time he said this. And he said to the people of Israel, when your children ask their fathers in time to come, what do these stones mean? You shall tell your children, know that Israel passed over the Jordan on dry ground. For the Lord your God dried up the waters of the Jordan, for until you passed over, as the Lord your God did to the Red Sea, which He dried up for us until we passed over, so that all the peoples of the earth may know that the hand of the Lord is mighty, that you may fear the Lord your God forever. God is with me. God is with us. I argued with myself right up until this exact moment on whether I wanted to do this because, well, it's been overused. But there's a reason it's been overused. It's good. I'm going to read you a non-scriptural poem that has meant a lot to me. It meant a lot to me because when I was younger, I didn't like it because it was overused and I heard it a lot. And then we had miscarriages. And then we've gone through all this garbage. This is it, by the way. One night I had a dream. As I was walking along the beach of my life, across the sky flashed scenes from my life, and for each scene I noticed two sets of footprints in the sand, one belonging to me and one to the Lord. After the last scene of my life flashed before me, I looked back at the footprints in the sand, and I noticed that at many times along the path of life, especially at the very lowest and saddest points, there was one set of footprints, and that really troubled me. So I asked the Lord and said, Lord, you said once I decided to follow you, you'd walk with me all the way. But I noticed that during the saddest and most troublesome times of my life, there was only one set of footprints, and I don't understand why. When I needed you most, why would you leave me? And he whispered, my precious child, I love you, and I will never leave you. Never ever during the trials and testings, for when you saw one set of footprints, it was then that I carried you. God is with me.